and it's Letterman's show, and he's just borrowing it. Seth Meyers!
Good evening, everyone. I'm Seth Meyers. This is Late Night. How's everyone doing tonight?
I love comedy for so many reasons, because it challenges what is and isn't funny, because it can transcend gender, religion, politics, and even language, and ultimately because it makes me laugh, and I like to laugh. Late night comedy shows dedicate themselves to comedy, and whilst the mantle of most iconic and influential late night show undoubtedly goes to The Tonight Show, today I want to talk about Late Night and its current host Seth Meyers and his comedic generosity. Now, Late Night has changed a lot over the 35 years it's been on the air under 4 different hosts, but it's always had a host interesting enough to keep audiences watching, and each comedian has their own style, gags and bits, and ultimately different strengths and weaknesses. As Meyers shines and sees continued acclaim for his A Closer Look series, it's clear that one of his strengths is the ability to deliver a straight monologue about the politics of the day with humour sprinkled in, a skill he honed over years hosting SNL's Weekend Update. Now, a lot of people love or hate his political humour, depending on their party affiliation, but to keep things non-partisan, I'm going to discuss how his approach to comedy sets him apart from not just the other hosts who've graced the late night desk, but his day-to-day competition. David Letterman is a late night god, and the best way to describe his onstage presence is just ruthless charisma and cynicism. His 2 successors, Conan O'Brien and Jimmy Fallon, had comedic wit and flattery respectively. Conan is the king of turning a phrase, and he's the snappiest in show business to make a funny quip, often using himself as the punchline.
I have quick moves.
Meaning others can laugh along, but they don't feel outshone for not keeping up with his wit. And Jimmy makes any guest feel like royalty, creating a chill environment where the hosts become the funniest person in the room, and he does this by laughing at all their jokes. Now, these 2 approaches are tried and true and clearly work for each host, but when you combine those 2 ways of performing comedy with a guest, you get Seth Meyers' approach, to be comedically generous. Seth was the head writer at Saturday Night Live for 10 years, meaning he was incredibly familiar with writing comedy for other people. Now, this kind of writing isn't like stand-up or late-night monologues. You never hear how someone else will perform the words you've written. Seth learned a lot from SNL, and he's managed to migrate many of that wisdom to late night effectively. Although his initial attempts at transferring his SNL experience were a little on the nose with bits like Second Chance Theatre, his current approach to hosting is very collaborative. Take one of Seth's recurring bits where he has 2 of his female writers on to tell jokes with him that he couldn't get away with telling on his own due to his being a stray white male. Now, regardless of whether you find this bit funny or not, it's perfectly emblematic of Seth's style of comedy. He donates punchlines. The bit sees Seth set up a joke as one of his writers tell the punchline, meaning that while he's involved in the comedy, he's not the centre. He shares it equally with whomever he shares the stage with. Now, this selflessness when it comes to joke telling is something you won't see on other late night shows. All the other hosts will rarely let anyone else be the centre of a bit. As mentioned before, Conan makes himself the punchline of a joke, and Fallon just gives his guests time to talk and laughs at their stories and jokes. And the other hosts will rarely tell a joke that you can credit to multiple people in the room. Looking at the many bits he does involving his writing staff, notably Ben Warheit and Amber Ruffin, it's clear how much he loves to share his comedy and give others a chance at being funny. On a base level, you can even see this in his interview style. Take his interview with the infamous Kellyanne Conway. Seth clearly goes to great lengths to make her feel comfortable, conceding that she's right about things like Hillary Clinton and saying that she pivots better than anyone.
I'm not going to sit here and argue with you
lose.
that the Clinton campaign was a well-run campaign.
Yeah,
That's
the Republicans
a pivot
did
right
not.
there, Kellyanne.
No, and Democrats did not.
That is a, and by
He
the way,
understood America and won America.
no one does it better. Nobody does it better.
However,
This finds a way to make what she does a punchline for her rather than about her. He's great at telling a joke based on someone else's story, or setting up a joke for them, meaning they get equal credit for his comedy. The reason Kellyanne is a great example of this is that he clearly doesn't like her, but respects his guest regardless. This, and the fact he so often gives his writers very generous amounts of screen time, letting them spread their comedic wings, is why Seth is, and for a long time will be, one of the best in the business.